large amount of snow, then hospitals, healthcare facilities, and maybe home health aides are going to institute their internal and external disaster plans. We know that if there's a big snow emergency that hits Washington, D.C., that you're not going to be able to get to your clients. So there are plans in place for emergency services to get to them and places for them to go. The important thing to know here is it's going to depend on your agency. Your agency must have policies and procedures in place that are going to tell them and you what you're going to do in the event of an emergency. So the most important thing that I can tell you during this overview of disaster preparation is figure out what your agency wants you to do in a disaster. Because it's going to depend based on the type of disaster and based on the agency that you work for and the population that you work for. You may have created a mini disaster plan a long time ago. You might have done it recently. A disaster plan could be as simple as develop a fire escape plan for your house. A lot of kids have to do that in schools. And so they plan, and lots of kids want to do fire escape drills, and the parents are like, oh, we don't want to do that. Actually, it's really, really important, and it saves lots and lots of lives. You want to make sure that when you're in people's homes that you know where the exits are. You want to make sure that you know if there's bars on the windows that you can't get out the window. So I need to know where a door is. You need to make sure that if the doors have bolt locks on both sides, that there's a key in the bolt, so that in the event of an emergency, you can get out of there. You need to know if the client has any disaster supplies available. Chances that they're not. Your book talks a lot about disaster supplies and 3 gallons of water and first aid supplies. Chances are, unfortunately, that your client's not going to have that stuff. Maybe you've got a first aid kit because your agency requires you to. Maybe you have some disaster preparedness supplies because your agency requires you to carry it, but maybe you don't. So just remember to keep that in mind. In the event of emergency, remain calm. Listen to radio or TV for updates. Wear appropriate clothing. Don't be wearing your Daisy Dukes out in the middle of a snow emergency, okay? That's the term that we use. I don't know what y'all use today because I'm older than God almost. At least I feel that way. Keep in touch with your supervisor. Try and keep in touch with them. Realize that your cell phones may not work, so you may have to find a secondary means. In the event of an emergency in Washington, D.C., there are cell phones, believe it or not, that have different levels of priority to them. So if there's a big emergency in Washington, D.C., they're going to shut off the cell phone service, and only certain cell phones are going to work. So have a backup plan for talking to your agent.